everybody. We are so happy. We are Trendwände, Efi and Kai. I'm Efi, he is Kai, and we are so happy that you're here for the second masterclass of CONNÄKT today with Works of Intent and Pasco Berma. And we're so happy that the SAE Institute Vienna gave us some support again for creating this space for learning, exchange, and also connection. Works of Intent is... sorry, I'm so nervous. It's great to have Works of Intent today from the UK. His sound is unique, stands for emotional depth, storytelling at its best, playfulness and precision, tension over excess, groove over overload. And he has numerous releases on COD3 QR, Rekids, Monkeytown and Time Passages, for example. And he has played in clubs like Berghain Berlin or Fabric London. And today, in his session, Making Big Tunes for Big Rooms, he'll give us an insight into his workflow and into his approach to making music for bigger sound systems and dance floors. But we will start with Pasco Berma from Vienna. We are so happy to have you here. Thank you. He's lecturer at the SAE Institute Vienna, but also a producer with house in the heart and techno in mind, as you said. So you combine hands-on experience with teaching and knowledge sharing, and yeah, it's perfect for this session today. And now we will start with your session, Modern Production Techniques in Ableton Live. So thanks again, and sorry for my nervousness. Thanks again for being here and supporting our club culture. Yeah, now enjoy the masterclass with Works of Intent and Pasco Berma, and afterwards let's dance through the night and get lost in the sound of Works of Intent, Ela and Kai Barton. Thank you. Enjoy. Now the stage is yours.
Thank you. Now it's working. Switch was off. So, good night, everybody. Nice to see you here. My name is Pascal, and I go by the artist name of Pasco Berma, which is basically tech house music. I started to release one and a half years ago, and it's my first solo project, actually. I was working long time with a friend of mine on a drum and bass project, which is called Massive Zebra. So my background basically is audio engineering and drum and bass music. And I was at a point where I just felt like I want to do something more simple, and I mean this really in a positive way, and like a very stripped down thing of which I'm doing when I'm producing drum and bass, but it's way less tracks and it's way more simple, structured and everything. So these projects are very nice to show also for people who are probably not into music production. And yeah, so I brought a released song today, which we will like tear apart, and I'll show you like 2 or 3 substantial techniques for modern music production in Ableton Live, in my case. And before we get started, I just quickly wanted to know the people who are here. Who is also producing music? Is there someone in the room? Yeah. Who's a DJ or sees them more like on the DJ side? Okay, almost like the same people. And who's just here for, I don't know, something new or because he likes music? Yeah, great. Okay, so I try to not get too technical. You already see my session here, and it's very cleaned up. Basically, my workflow is very structured, I would say, and I'm always like, of course, I have a template, but I try to keep things very organized and use color coding and labeling and stuff. Because then when I open the project like half a year later, I know exactly what's going on. And yeah, so what I want to basically show you today is how to get a production loud, clean, and punchy. And this already can happen in the sound design and arrangement stage, of course. So the track here is as it is released, so the mix is done here, the mastering is done here in this Ableton session, as you can find it on SoundCloud, Spotify, wherever. And yeah, we're gonna just have a short listen until the first drop, I would say. And so forth and so on. It's going to a breakdown then and into a second drop. I'll quickly show you that because I didn't just want to do like a copy paste of thing, but I added like a weird key change there to make it more interesting. And it goes down here. Okay. So I really have to make this quick, quick and dirty because I only have 30 minutes to go. So yeah, maybe just I would suggest that we have just a quick listen to the main elements here. The song is very simple. The whole production has like 30 tracks maximum because there are still some unused ones in there, but that's it. And you already see here on the right side my the main groups, the main elements, drums, bass, the lead sound, which is basically the synth, and then the vocals, which I recorded myself. Yeah, and let's just quickly listen to the drum. to the drums, and then I'm always gonna cancel the solo so you hear them in context once again and can focus on this element. So it's very straightforward. It's a kick drum, it's a top percussion loop, it's 2 open hi-hats and 1 shaker added in later on, or 2 shakers, but that's it. Like drums is basically, it's 5 or 6 tracks, shakers coming in the second part too. Okay, the bass. This is that one. It's a very simple loop. You see there's just some variation every 4 bars going on. And
Sorry, I have a question. Is it okay?
Sure.
Okay. Because I always trouble with the bass.
Yeah.
Do you have some hints? Do you use samples or what are you doing with the bass?
The bass, most of the time I program it. This one is made in Serum.
How is it called? Serum. Okay.
That's in here. Probably some of you know. That's still the old version.
It's a plug-in.
It's a plugin, yeah. And yeah, it's very hard to give a short answer here, basically. But the sound is quite simple, basically. I think it's to really break it down, for me it's very important to decide on which key the song is in on the first hand, always.
Yeah. So you always adopt the key of the bass, of course, to the other keys of the line.
That of course, but it really makes a difference if a song is in whatever, like D sharp, which is very low, or if it's in E or F or G. And there is like a certain range which just works well, basically, in clubs. And if I'm very low, I'm in D sharp, which is one of, I think, the lowest keys, which work really well. I actually don't know which this one is. Let's check. And
why does it say congas? Was it taken from some drum?
That's a good question, actually. I think because the main element of this song, when I started it, and I will show you like my first sketch later on. I'm always trying to do like a sketch of a song in 1 hour or something like that. And if this not turning out to be something great, I just let it go most of the time. And I think probably I created the bass line like out of this conga loop here. Like converted the audio into MIDI and then like just shifting around the notes to get the bass line. So you get the pattern is the same like as the conga, so I like translated this into the bass, but this was like my starting point was this conga loop with this track. But before we go deeper into that, just I want to finish to show you the groups here. So this was the bass, it's just one track. Sometimes I separate it into like a sub bass and the upper bass, but here's just one simple bass.
How many tracks do you have in the kick drum?
Sorry?
In the kick drum line?
The kick drum? Yeah, it's separate. It's in the drum group. Yeah. Like I'll show you the bass and the kick together quick.
Okay.
Yeah. So then in the lead group we'll find our conga loop. And also later on the synth coming in for the second part of the drop. Which should just go a little.
Do you use a MIDI controller or a controller?
Actually, I program all of the stuff with my mouse.
Really?
Yeah.
With the mouse?
Yeah.
Okay, crazy, yeah.
Most of the time, yes, to be honest.
But it wouldn't be easier with the MIDI controller.
I'm not a keyboardist, so
Okay.
I mean I can play some chords, you know, but most of the time I'm really using a lot of the features inside of Ableton to make music in terms of music theory, like all the scale stuff, and I don't know if you know that if let's say this track is is like in E minor or something, then you can just use the scale here and it shows you all the correct notes. If it would work, I don't know. I don't know why it's not working. But yeah, Ableton can do a great job here helping you out with missing knowledge in music theory. And then the last thing, there is this little stab also going on in the lead. See, the time is flying. Just like this classic house thing on the, like on the third 16th note or something. Yeah, I didn't invent the wheel newly here. And the vocal, last but not least, which is a little bit cringe to show you from me, of course. And it's like 2 layers. I have this little pocket operator. They have this tiny little synthesizers, and there's one for speech where I have an onboard microphone, and I recorded it into this, and then processed it. And this is this layer here. And this has like a cheap, shitty auto-tune effect and stuff. But in the end, it was like a little bit too less, and then I recorded it in addition with a microphone, just layered it. And put some funny effects on it.
Sorry, how do you record with voice on the mixer, or is there a recording function, or do you have
like I'm talking to you guys here with a microphone, just going in my sound card, and the other thing is like a standalone. It's like it looks like a Game Boy. It's like a toy where you can like process vocals with it, and this is why.
Are you a singer, or do you use many effects?
As you can hear, I use many effects, and that should answer your question. Yeah. So that's it basically, and I like this so much because it's so simple, it's so stripped down, and it's like really sounding great to me at least, and it's very punchy and powerful. And I think the secret is that there is not a lot of elements, so most of the time that's the point. Also, like I saw an interview once from Pharrell, and he says like he sees himself as a reducer and not a producer, which I found very funny because he like always tries to see what is really essential to get the message translated and the vibe of the song, but what is not necessary. And I think often if you're like trying to add in more things, maybe in the same frequency range or something, you're doing this because you're not happy with the elements already there in that range, and that means that maybe the sound is not good, or the sound design is not good, or it just doesn't make sense in the arrangement and stuff like that. And so I really try to keep it as minimal as possible, and it works out quite well most of the time, to be honest. Yeah.
And sorry, I have now a question. I'm sorry for asking so many questions.
Sure.
I hope it's okay. For the hurt cats, you know, how do you handle it for the power of the kick drum? Do you adjust it or with the compressor, or how do you work with it?
Yeah, that's also a point I wanted to show you today, which is about how to make space actually, and that elements have its space in the mix.
Yeah.
And the people who make music here for sure already heard of something like called sidechain compression. And as I told you, I'm coming from drum and bass. I do this in a very specific way and in a very extreme way with all my productions most of the time. And this means, like, for a short, very short window of time, everything gets muted, so to say, completely when the kick hits. And I achieved this by having a little sound here. There are different techniques, and I tried all of them, of course, and this is just the one which is most convenient and most effective for me. And there is a little click playing in the background, and this is like the shortest thing you can draw in audio. I made this in Pro Tools. It's like 4 samples long, so it's a fraction of a millisecond actually. And all the elements but the kick and maybe one percussion or something get this signal you just heard, which you cannot hear in the song, of course. It's just playing in the background. And when it comes, it plays like the same rhythm as the kick drum. Everything gets stuck for a very short window of time with a compressor. So this means on the bass, for example, on the bass group, I accomplished it on all the groups and not on the single signals. There is a compressor, and you see this red line here, and this means it draws down the volume basically for a very short time window to make space for the kick. And I prepared that for you. So this is happening on the bass sound, this is happening on the leads, even on the vocals. I just adjust the time, it's very short, like it's gone for 10 milliseconds just so that the kick can hit through. And I mapped all of this so I can toggle them with one button for you guys. And we can check the whole song with this technique and without. And you will immediately see, hopefully, I don't know, I don't hear so much here on stage, but you should immediately hear how the drums are getting sucked into all of the other elements because there is no space for them anymore, especially the kick. So turn it off now, all the compressors which duck the elements. Like the kick, like the weight of the kick is almost gone, and one more time. Turn it on. Can you hear a difference there when you concentrate just on the kick? How it's cutting through more through the mix?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's essentially that. And why I'm doing it like this is I just have different timings on all of the elements because the bass is low and the kick. So it needs to get out of the way. The bass needs to get out of the way longer than, for example, other elements. And some people just don't even do that. But I want to like have an extreme, very short ducking, so-called ducking effect. And this is really a technical thing for me. If you know, like if a song is really pumpy, if you think of the classic Daft Punk stuff or whatsoever, where the bass is always like pumping, this is a kind of a creative thing that you make things pumpy and working with the kick, but this is just a very short technical time window to get the kick and maybe the snare if there is one through the mix. So yeah, that's considered a ghost trigger sidechain compression basically. The second thing, which I implemented into my workflow, who knows what clipping is, and is clipping essentially a bad thing? No? I mean, it is, and that's also very interesting. Like, as you see, all my faders, like the greenish things here on the right side, are at 0. So I do like the leveling of my signals. I do when I'm going out of the synthesizer, when I have audio inside a track, I adjust the audio volume here, which is like the first instance where it's possible in the software. And then I just try to keep it at the same level, and then it just works fine. So I hardly touch these faders here most of the time. And the thing is, all modern audio software works with a very high resolution inside, like 32 or 64 bits. And so you cannot clip anything inside audio software. Maybe a plugin, if it's like an emulation of some analog stuff, you can get like more distortion from it, which should not be unwanted at least. But otherwise, nothing can happen unless the master is not read. So where you really go out to your headphone or speakers or whatever, this should not clip, but anything else, it doesn't matter if it goes read inside the software. I mean, I had to figure this out by myself, and some people maybe take this down to some value, like -10, to have some headroom. But I just don't care, because when I'm starting, I have a limiter on my master, and I already try when I just do a beat and a bass maybe to get already at the final level I want to be at the master. And I always mix or always produce into the limiter or clipper or both. So because clipping essentially generates harmonics. So you have a peak in the audio signal and the clipper just cuts it away, basically, which makes like a sine wave more a rectangular wave, and this generates overtones. And so it's good to produce into the limiter and produce at a very loud level already, if you know what you're doing at least, because then you already know, okay, my kick will get more clipped at the final master stage, and you already know how it will sound being limited. So probably it gets more harmonics, as I said. Then I reduce the overtones in my kick drum a little bit in certain areas. And the kick drum, I'm always doing with a kick synthesizer. So it's no sample for my main drums at least. And there you have like you can just draw the pitch envelope of your kick and where it sits, and if it's in the key, this song is in D sharp, so it sits down at D sharp as well. And this is essentially the kick. It's just a sine wave being pitched down from top to bottom, and I can adjust how this runs, how long it is, and how it's amplified. So this is like the thing we really hear. This is the amplifying curve, and this is the pitch curve. And it's very important, for example, to check this area here, but because the click is just like the snap at the beginning of the thing, but this is like how woody it sounds, or like the structures here in the mid frequencies. I play the kick one more time. Can change a lot of the character here. And this is what I'm doing like for hours sometimes. And I just love it. But you have to check it, of course, always in context, and especially with the bass, how it cuts through, and the sidechain is a technique. Sidechain compression thing is a technique which helps a lot, of course, but here I can really go deep and decide how it really sounds.
Pasco?
Yeah.
So I read some time ago that because you said you go redline basically into other plugins and you don't care because you take the harmonics out of it, right? In some cases.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I read some time ago when you go into the L2 for some limiter, for instance, that it would be better to increase the gain of the limiter itself before going redline into the limiter.
That's basically, yeah, that's what I said. Like if you're using emulations, like plugins emulating analog gear, then this is the case, of course. And it's always like you should go in there at minus 18 dB. That's like analog 0. But if you just use digital plugins like fat filter stuff and whatever, then it doesn't matter.
Okay.
And so I gain stage my signals basically. Like the loudest elements as the kick and the bass, most of the time they're just at 0, and they dictate where the other elements have to sit in the mix with this kind of music. And yeah.
And do you master your tracks on your own?
Yes. I will come to that. And the clipping thing, I was telling you how much time I have. 2 more minutes probably, right? Oh my god.
You can keep answering questions now. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thanks. Perfect.
So
what's on your mastering chain? That's my
what's
question.
on my mastering chain?
Yeah.
It's very stripped down. First hand, you see there's just a gain plugin turning down by 9 dB the whole thing because it's just too loud because everything is at 0 before. It's just because I'm lazy, you know. And then there's nothing really special. There's an equalizer just pushing 2 frequencies. I'm always trying when I notice something which I would do on a master, I'm going to think of if it is a problem, where is it in the mix and where is it in the singular signals. So in my scenario for my own productions, where I do everything until the master, I basically don't want to have anything there. But maybe just one EQ, one clipper, one limiter. So on also this here, this is like 2 dBs pushed here. This is like half a dB, so this is almost nothing in the safety low cut, just for the bass. And then there's a wave shaper. Wave shaping is a very nice, very basic approach to push the loudness of a signal. So if you push this curve, you make just inside of the audio material, you must imagine the quiet parts more louder. Or I can say here, everything which is here at -2, for example, in this audio, like in the whole song now, I will just push to 0. So I'm just pushing the upperst part in the audio to more volume. And I can do this for different frequency bands here. So for the bass, for the mids, for the highs. But this adds like, I don't know, 1 dB of loudness, probably. Yeah, then there is one coloring, like mastering EQ, where I just gently push some, no bass, I don't push any bass, just some mids and some highs, it's very broad strokes. And then there is a clipper and a limiter. In this case, it's Gold Clip. We can actually check that out quickly. Doing like 3 dBs. And the limiter then is doing 2 dBs, and I'm at the loudness of like -5 LUFS, if somebody knows what that is. And yeah, I think the time is over. I would have so much more to tell, but it's really hard. I never did like such a short lesson. When I do a workshop, it's more, most of the time, 3 or 4 hours, and it's still too short.
Maybe I have a quick question to both of you.
Yeah.
You were talking about loves. Which value would you recommend? Because I read so many different, for instance, Björn Towen recommends like not going more than, let's say, -10 or -9. Some say -4.5, -5.
It's very, to be honest, I think the most important thing I want to change so much when discussing this topic is which loves, because everybody I see is talking about loves. I'm always talking about loves, that's an abbreviation, LUFES for loudness units relative to full scale. I always talk about loves short term, which is a time window of 3 seconds, because the Spotify thing with loudness and loves is it scans the whole song and this is loves integrated. But if you just look at the drop, it's better to talk about short term, because maybe your intro is very long and quiet, so it doesn't say anything, the overall value doesn't say anything about how loud your drop is, so to say. So yeah, and it depends on the genre, I think. So anything goes, almost. I mean, I'm coming from drum and bass, and nowadays the production most of the time -3, -2 even, and it's possible to get like the illusion of at least that it's a clean and punchy track. It's not, but it's like hidden in the sounds, the distortion, if you do it properly. So there is a master probably, I would say, which is louder and sounds more shitty because it's not produced well and arranged well and everything. So you should go more quiet than fuck it up to just reach the loudness.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. So
sorry, I have another question to the session view. What adjustments do you use for the session views, the final ones?
The session view?
Yeah, the session view. When you have made a track, and what kind of adjustments do you use for the session view?
This is the session view, right?
I took the HDMI out.
Fuck. I'm so sorry.
We didn't swap over, sorry.
The window I showed was the session view, right?
Not the yeah.
Oh, it's an arrangement
not
view.
the arrangement view,
Yeah.
but my question is regarding to the session view.
I'm only working in the arrangement view.
Okay.
I'm an old school guy. I mean, I do some sound design sometimes there, like playing random kicks and stuff and then record it, but I'm producing in the arrangement, just in the normal timeline, always, yeah. Yeah, thank you very much. It was very short, I'm so sorry, but I hope there was something interesting at least, and I'm gonna give it over to Works of Intent.
Thank you.
Sorry.
It's all right. I'll move over.
I'll give you the USB, right?
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Check 1, 2. Oh, lovely. Hello. Thank you so much for coming. And thank you so much, Pascal, for the clip to game, showing your process. Actually, to add to the mastering conversation and question about LUFS and things like that. Generally, if you're using the technique he's using, where you're just like clipping to 0 in every single channel and you're clipping every group, you don't actually have to limit your track that much at the end of the day for it to sound really good. I do a very similar process, and I find that if I'm going to give a number, it would be like -9 or -8, because, and to be clear, like -9 is like quieter than -5. So -9 because like you want to do all the gain and the pushing in the club, like on the speakers. And the more dynamic you have your track, the more danceable your music actually sounds. Like if your kick drum is actually moving the speakers up and down, the people are dancing. I'd say flat tracks equals flat audiences. So, all right, but let's start making big tunes for big rooms. Here's a little about me. I've just stripped it down to the most relevant things, which is the labels I released on, who plays my tracks, hopefully some names you recognize there, and where I have played said tracks, including we have Greta Ferrella, I think I played like 2 years ago, and I've been blessed to support Laurent Garnier in many of his club adventures. So yeah, I think my next release is going to be on COD3 QR, I think in April, and about the same time, maybe the month after, I have a 4-track coming out on Time Passages, which has been labeled as Fine Lonely. I'm very lucky to be releasing on such a lovely label. Right, so let's start with making good tunes. The key to like how I work and how I make my music is this theory and this ideology of contrast. Also, questions are at the end. Just now there'll be a section. So the thing behind how I make music is contrast is key. Like to me, this answers the questions like, why do some tracks jump out at you more than others? You know, when you're previewing lots of tunes on Beatport or Spotify, why is it that one track will jump out at you over another track? And why is it that if you're producing music, some of the tracks that you finish sound better than other tracks? And this theory that I'm going to explain to you should help inform why that happens, and also help you when you're producing music to, instead of being like, oh, I'm looking for inspiration or I don't know what to do next in the process of making music, this will help you figure out, it will show you so that you know what you need to do next, and you also know when you have finished a track, because everything will be working harmoniously together. So I'm going to keep the theory kind of short because we have lots of practical examples that I want to show you, but just to get into it a bit, the different types of contrast that make up a track. And the reason why contrast is important is because our ears and our mind is relative. How we perceive sound, how do we know if something is quiet or something is loud, is very much related to the relativeness of it. So something sounds lower if you can compare it to something that also sounds high in a mix. So your sub bass will actually sound louder and more powerful if you have a ride at the very top, for example. We have rhythmic contrast, so you have different types of rhythms that exist in music. You have like soca rhythms, bossa nova, salsa, straight, more jazzy rhythms. And these can largely be put into different categories like straight, so when things are 4/4 on the 1, 2, 3, 4, or on the and, we might call that off. Syncopated, when you have things happening between the kicks, but kind of a bit more sporadically. Swung, when things are like kind of straight, you hear this a lot in garage music, where things are shuffled and swing is the terminology we'll use, or polyrhythmic, which is more like a mathematical way of looking at rhythm. So if you have different rhythms happening within a track, that also makes things a lot more interesting. Temporal. So this is staccato versus legato, flux versus drone. So things that are very frenetic, like drums, for example, or a breakbeat in a jungle tune. This is very staccato. These are very quick, short sounds that are happening very quickly. And then legato or drones are just the things that stay long in the background, violin, strings, that just go over the course of the track. When you have those things happening at the same time, it creates this beautiful contrast in your ears. Textural, which is when you have samples that sound really shit, like a bad kick drum, a bad snare, but they are surrounded by beautiful chords that sit nice and wide and have like a beautiful top end to them. When you have those two things happening as well, it also tickles the eardrums and tickles the brain really wonderfully. This is why hip hop sounds so good, because often hip hop or rap music uses samples as its main musical driver, but then the vocals sound like pristine. They're recorded to like the highest, most expensive vocal chains going in the industry, and so they just sound incredible over these kind of like low-fi sample beats. That's why it sounds so interesting. Width, having things that are right down the center of your mix, So maybe your drums, your kick drum, your snares, your hi-hats, whatever. And then width, maybe you have your bass a little bit wide, you have the chords wide, you put like little sprinklings in the top. And also things that are in phase and out of phase, which we might get into, where you can have things wide, and then you can have things wider than wide. So they sound like they're coming outside of the speakers, almost. And this is really key to, like I said, everything is relative. So how big a track sounds is the distance between your most central element and your widest element. If all of your elements in your track are like straight down the middle, they don't sound big. They will just be very one-dimensional. But if you create that contrast, so your eardrums can hear this like little bit of ear candy that happens like way off onto the sides, whilst you have the main backbeat of your track happening down the middle, it creates this sense of space and scale in your music that you couldn't achieve otherwise. And we have depth, when something sounds really, really close to you versus far away. And we create depth through reverbs and delays and sending things far back. And once again, you can only tell how far something is in a mix if your brain also is hearing something that is very close. So you need to create always these different kinds of contrasts. And then we'll also look at a way of combining all these different techniques of contrast to figure out where we can be contrasting yet complementary. So there'll be ways in which things will complement each other while still contrast. And that is also really key to making very interesting sounding music. But enough of the theory, we'll start getting into some examples. So let me check we have this working. Okay, can you still hear me while this is playing?
Yes.
Alright, I'll try not to talk over the music though. So, everything is contrasting. So let's start with this. This is just, where's all my notes here? Test. Okay, so we have just a kick drum here. This is for some of you, this might be the way you start a track. Actually, I'm going to make sure we have this up at all times, because this is a great way to visualize what's going on. Because there's lots of other sounds we're hearing right now from downstairs, so this will tell you what we're actually hearing out of these speakers. So, and I'm going to show you how to read this. So right down the bottom here, this is your bass, this is your lowest notes, 20 to like 90 hertz, you might consider sub bass. And then up here is your highest elements. And now anything that appears in this brighter pink, just down here, is things that exist in the stereo. And anything that is this color here is things that happen down the middle. So we can be like, okay, this is all very mono, and then there's a little bit on the top end of a little bit of width. So already this is kind of a nice kick because you have the contrast between the bottom end, there's a little bit of top, and there's a little bit of width. So it's already a kind of interesting sounding kick drum. But if we really want to add some contrast to it, there we have, as I've noted here in these lovely pictures, spectral contrast. And then how do we make depth? Well, let's put a nice reverb on top of that hi-hat. And then there we're already building up the ingredients of a big room tune. Then we have textural. So here we have like these pristine drums, nice width, lovely loop at the top, but then we're combining it with a pretty crap sounding kick. Very mono, doesn't have any other information, there's no width happening in it. But you combine the two, you create this textural contrast. And now we'll go to rhythmic. So that loop that we had before, this is a very straight loop, right? Everything's happening on the 1 or the and. You have the off hat, you got the clap on the 2 and the 4. Everything is very straight, is how I would call it. If we want to introduce a rhythmic contrast, we might move, I think in this case, the clap to a syncopated rhythm that occupies the space in between the kicks. Or maybe you'd want to have the contrast so that just you have the off hat and you have the ride on the 1, and then you have the clap syncopated, but you also have the kicks syncopated. And then if we wanted to, when we think about temporal contrast, so temporal meaning time, we have here just a drum loop, right? And each one of these hits is short kick, short ride, short off hat, short clap. If you introduce an element that is long, we have temporal contrast. There's actually even more things contrasting here than just having a long note. You also have temporal contrast. I would also put transient contrast. The transient is the first thing that you hear in any sample or any kick, right? So a kick is instant, it's boom. A snare is instant, it's but this doesn't have, it's got a very slow attack, is how we call it. So there's no instant transient, it's slow, it builds. So that's another kind of contrast we can have, where the transients are different. And the other kind of temporal contrast, which I'll introduce later, is where you have a sequence that repeats. It could be notes, and they can repeat every bar, it's just the same. But then you have a chord sequence underneath that repeats every 4 bars. It's a longer sequence. That's also a form of temporal contrast. And we'll actually get into it right here. So as you can see here, it's like super frenetic, loads of breakbeat drums. And so if we want to create temporal contrast, we have to come up with something that doesn't have those transients. There's a nice long note somewhere. Are we getting this? Are the examples clear? Cool. Yeah. And then we'll have one more explainer of contrast, and then we play a little game. We do some A and B's. So this last one is an example of textual contrast. So we have mono. As you can see, there's no stereo information here. Lo-fi is really rolled off. There's not a lot of high-end information happening at the top here. So we've got lo-fi, mono, chord sequence. So then, when we're thinking about making music and we're in the middle of this as a project, we think, okay, well, we know with the theory of contrast what we need to do to add to it. So we have just a series of very hi-fi plucks. Super wide, they've got the reverb, they're not so dry, so we're implementing a number of different types of contrast to offset from our lo-fi chords. So, now we'll get into a bit of a game, which is I have for you a loop that we'll look at, and then I presented an A and a B solution to what would provide contrast, and I want to we'll go through it and then I'll shout, okay, you put your hand up if you thought A was better, put your hand up for B is better. And I might pick you out and ask you to justify your decision based on what I've told you so far. So, let's start. So if I was describing this, I'd say it is kind of shuffly drums. We have syncopated chords, stabs, that repeat every 2 bars, plus a kind of complementary sub underneath and an off hat. So we've got some syncopation, shuffly drums, and a sub that hits at the same time as the chord. So here's our 2 solutions. Here's A, I'm going to preview A, preview B, and I'm going to ask you which one you thought sounded best. So we have A, long, dreamy high strings, but they don't land on the 1. They kind of, the way that they come in is a little bit off. And then for B, we have kind of a 16th note sequence, a bit flucky, and the notes change in line with the chord. So, A or B? Put your hands up if you thought A sounded better. Okay. Just a sample A. And put your hands up if you thought B sounded better. Okay, we have a majority for B. That's interesting. Okay. 18. Is there anyone who wants to tell me why they thought A sounded better? Just shout.
Because B gives a different group, I would say.
Yeah, because B gives a different groove. Okay. And anyone else have wants to defend A? And just a context. This is our base.
It's more width. A for me. With more width.
More width?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we can look at it straight. Very wide. Long notes. And then B is mono sequence. Okay, so B defenders, tell me. Someone shout. Why did you like B better?
Just sounds better.
It brings structure and repeatedness, which is missing in the original sample.
Okay.
The sample is very groovy.
Yeah.
And this brings very strict pattern.
Yeah.
It has more movement, kind of. I think it's like this. What with rhythms happens, it's also not like straight and syncopated.
Yes.
A little bit, and it gives more groove and movement to the whole thing.
Yes.
I would say
it's contrasting the original.
And I think it's a little bit more intensity to the sound with the attack at the.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
I would say the contrast was a bit too high. And it sounded too stretched out with this high contrast.
Okay, interesting.
For me, it was more stretched out, but it was smooth in the track.
Okay.
And in A, for me, it kind of destroy the rhythm.
Okay, interesting. So, this is kind of a trick. There's no right answer here. And actually, both these things happen in the track at some point, just not at the same time. But this is to give you an idea of just like when you understand the theory of contrast, you can come up quickly with ideas that will complement what you already have and create an A section, a B section, a C section very quickly. Because you're going to be like, well, this is happening, so let me try this. And it kind of works. You can do another one and be like, oh, that also works. And it works for different reasons. But it helps you know what to try next, rather than fiddling around, being like, what's going to work? So, let's go for another one. So there we have more breakbeat, shuffly drums, there's straight wide, and there's a kind of wobbly sub bass in there as well. And there are chord sounds in there, but they're also straight. So our A is this. There's a really distant note, a melody where every note hits on beat. Dun, 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 dun. And then B is. And to help you out a bit, I'll also solo them. So this is A, very wide, focused in that range. Similar range to where the chords are. And then B is. So, hands up for A. Okay. Hands up for B. Okay, B wins again. Okay, so why A? A people, defend. Defend your choice.
More harmonic.
More harmonic. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. And then B, why did you like B?
More nasty, yeah.
The high frequency, it gives like kind of like makes it bigger.
Yeah.
But it's because it's very high frequency than the other sounds.
Yes. Yeah. So it really pierces the top end. So for me, I would say the thing that introduces the most contrast is B, because A, the notes. So in A we have, as I said, reverb out notes sequence that happens on a straight beat. Dun, 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 dun. And if we listen to the original sound, we have chords already that are hitting on the one, and they're also quite reverbed out as well. So we're applying the same that we already have in the chords to another element. So we're, in that case, kind of
emphasizing the original.
You can be, in that sense, you can emphasize, or you can even do create a harmony. But even then, I would be like, okay, I want to create a harmony, but I want to do it different to the thing that I'm being referencing with the harmony. So if I have wide reverb chords that go on the one, my harmony should be very mono type melody that sits harmonically. And this is why, for me, I ended up going with B. So in the final finished tune, this is what I say. Cool. Another one. So then we've got a kind of wide, straight hat at the top, kick drum, 4/4. We've got a pristine, wide arc happening, and a really solid, syncopated sub bass. Yeah, so that's happening in between the kicks. That's up. So, A, B. A is. A kind of low bass that sits straight versus a syncopated sub. And B. Okay, hands up at A. Oh, we've got nobody that likes A. Hands up for B. Okay, everyone else. Okay, why not A is a question. So A being the lower.
It feels too wet.
Too
wet.
Okay.
Can I change my mind actually? I like that more.
You like B more? Okay.
No, A.
A. Okay. Right.
But for me, it feels that there is the sharpening process. It's not in the A, you know?
Okay.
It's too straight.
It's too straight, it's nothing interesting.
So to me, the bass on this, because it's syncopated, so the bass is straight, but the sub bass is syncopated. It creates the contrast. Not to say A is right or B is right. So why do we like B?
For me, it opens the frequency that wasn't originally there.
Yeah.
It's more high. Well, and the A is already adding the frequency that exists, so it's kind of just making it too muddy. Makes much stuff happen.
And I like in B that there's sound and then silence. It's there sometimes, and then there's a gap.
Okay.
But,
any other defenders of B? Why do we like B? Pick it.
It's more entertaining.
More entertaining. So it's not in the theory of contrast, but it's there. it's relevant. Okay, so again, this is a trick because it's actually a call and response. And when you put them together, they contrast with each other. Yeah. Are we enjoying this?
Yeah.
Okay. We've got a couple more, and then I'll leave it. We'll do some questions at the end. Because I think I've got 20 minutes left or something. Okay. So there we have 4/4 kick. We've got really long sub notes on a 4-bar loop. And then the tops they're kind of, they sit mainly on the off, it's kind of like a, but there's a hint of syncopation, just very, very slightly. Okay, view our candidates. A. That's a 3-note bass sequence. So when you have 3 notes and the way that they repeat, that's syncopated. But it's got an 8-bar movement of melody versus a 4-bar loop on the sub. So the note sequence is twice the length of the sub movement. And then we have B. So for B, we've got a massive wide synth. The notes are a bit skippy. They're on the 1 and then they're on the off. So that's kind of like straight, but not quite. So let's just view them in solo. Okay, A or B? A, hands up for A. And hands up for B. Okay. This might be more to do with taste than syncopation. Or rather contrast. Okay, A, why do we like A?
It's kind of lo-fi sound, I think. And it goes very well with this high pitch going percussion.
Yeah. The shakers.
That's what I like.
I think the groove.
Huh?
I think the groove because of the syncopation.
Yeah. And we did have some people like B. Could you shout out why you liked B? Anyone?
Can you hear it again a little bit?
Yeah. Okay, so for me we have the sub notes, they are long, and they are so long that they take up basically our whole bar before they change, right? And there's I think it's like the 3rd note repeats into the 4th. So when we have A, we're creating this really nice syncopation with the sub, where you have a bass movement, but it's happening, it's following harmonically the sub, but it's rhythmically contrasting. And then with B, we have also a moment we have a temporal solution, right? So we have the top end being quite skippy. And so to contrast the top end, you have these long, smooth notes that change much more often than the sub does. But not as often as the sequence that we have in A. So once again, this is a state of like, there's no right answer here. Both these ideas exist in the same track, just not at the same time. So there's this is the peak of the tune, right? And then this is kind of like the more subdued breakdown part. where we can then build into those bigger moments. So once again, like, the theory of contrast just lets you create ideas that are always going to be interesting, and you can make A parts, B parts, C parts quite easily to tune. Okay, actually we got too many, and I have less than 15 minutes left. Is that right? So I'm going to do like roughly. Okay. So I'm going to skip to the last two, I think. Okay, so this is where I'm going to show you a bit better the idea of complementary contrast. So we have an A sequence and a B sequence, and then I'm going to combine them together. So in our A sequence we have so the contrast here is you have the sub bass right at the bottom, you have the hi-hats right at the top. A lot of the drums are not very wide, as you can see like here. There's a hint of width, but really it's down the middle. Then you have these chords that sit wide and in this kind of lower musical range. They complement each other because they're all straight. They all happen on the one or the off. The ride is on the one, the kick is on the one. The chords are at the start of each bar. So that's the way in which they complement and contrast each other. And then in our B section, or our B mode, we have that is a syncopated sub, 3-note arp, and a very dirty, lo-fi sounding perk sound that also is syncopated, and they're all hitting basically at the same time. So there you have the contrast and where they sit. You have some lo-fi elements, some wide elements, but the thing that they are complementary all about is they're all syncopated. So you have those, and then when you add them together, you get this. So the last one is this one. And here we're going to focus no drums. This is just about music and instrumentation. So you'll notice that there will be nothing in the low end. And there'll be nothing in the high end. We're just going to keep it where the music is. There's a saying I have, which is music is in the mid-range, dance music is everywhere else. So this is where we have it. So we have syncopated chord stabs, we've got a 3-note arp, and we have another 2-note undertone just going one after the other like this. And then here's our A. Now B. So, who's for A, who's for B? Let's start with A. Hands up for A. A was this. Okay, and
Choose both of them.
huh?
Can we choose both of them?
You like both? Yeah, okay, we'll do.
Join them together.
You want B? Put your hands up for B. And hands up for both. Okay. Okay, A people, why do we like A? Just a shout.
A to me feels like that the compliment is an interesting bridge in between bits of intensity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that it's very together. That's then a good contrast to where there would be something like B that would be more contrasty. That would be
So we have all these arps and all these chords, they have a similar transient response, and the first note is like that. Whereas the notes that come in on A are very breathy. They come in slowly. And so that's the kind of contrast I'm introducing here melodically, is that
slow attack and longer notes.
Yeah. And so B is happening in the track at some point, but when I have B in the track, I don't have the arp that is sitting in the sample. Because then there's too much syncopation and there's too many transient moments happening at the same time. So you can hear actually how they interfere with each other a little bit when you listen to the arp and you listen to the B. They step on each other's toes. The moment you get rid of that arp and you have this section, it sounds good. So they are both in it. All right, I guess that's all I've got time for on that. Do we have? I guess now is there's a whole thing about how point source speakers work versus how line arrays work, but we can get into this another time. Q&A.
I have a question.
Yes.
What was your decision to use, how is it called, repeater for producing software?
Oh, Reaper. Why do I use Reaper?
Sorry.
Why do I use Reaper? It's because I'm insane, and I wouldn't recommend this program to anybody. Don't.
What is the difference to Ableton?
A huge difference. They're like Reaper is more like a Pro Tools, I guess, alternative. Whereas Ableton is like very focused on making electronic dance music and has lots of little tools to make lots of interesting modifiers. But this is a DAW for like really insane people. You see all of this? Like all of this is customized. Like every single button on this toolbar I have placed there. Every single button here I placed there.
And of course there's a lovely dog.
Yeah, and also that's my dog. When you right click, you can. Everything that comes up here is exactly what I want to come up on here. It's a mad piece of software.
I'm sold now, dog.
We all use Reaper now.
Any other questions? Okay,
Yeah. In the last example, there was this synth on top. Is it like just layered on top, or do you also plug some other frequencies to make it come more through?
Are you talking about just the instrumental?
Yes, right. Yeah.
So my rule about that stuff is sometimes if you have when you hear one of those massive lead synths that you hear in my tracks, that I'm ducking everything in there's almost like here's my lead and then here's all my chords and all my other bits that's in the background and they sit separate, and every time that lead comes in they all go down.
Right.
but they go down in a way that's very transparent. You can't hear them go down,
Yes.
but it just makes it clearer. For the most part, though, I try not to do that unless we're having those big moments. I want, like I said, you only put in what you need to and to fill out that frequency. Any other questions?
Do you use synthesizers for your melodies? Also like MIDI controllers or something like that?
No, same as Pasco there with
the mouse.
this.
Yeah.
This is, I used to be very talented. I used to be able to play violin, piano, guitar, all kinds. And then I found a laptop, and now
then you can't feel the melody.
it's the only thing I can play.
Okay.
But I actually want to say a little bit about melody. Specifically, like, you know, this example here. So when I write melodies, okay, something very interesting. When you listen to music, your vocal cords respond in sympathy. They sympathetically also resonate with what you're listening to. Listened to an interview by a singer who can no longer sing because her vocal cords hurt so much, and she cannot even listen to music anymore because when she listens, the chords resonate and it hurts too much. And when I'm coming up with these wonderfully sad melodies here, the thing that tells me if I'm on the right track in creating a melody is my vocal cords have to resonate. Like, I can feel like hurting, and if I come up with a melody and it really stings, I'm like, okay, I've got it. I've got the saddest melody I can possibly come up. So yeah, just an interesting fact about the human body.
That's just about the frequency and the melody. That's apart from this from the decision which synth you take in here, right?
Yeah, so the synth, like how does it sound, is informed by the theory of contrast. Like what else is happening in the track. Okay. Any other questions?
So I guess you liked the crystal cast.
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
I have a question. Yes, you presented us this contrast theory. Do you have like also other theories that you are using when you are making music, or is just this is the main thing? And
this is the thing that really just informs everything that I do. It helps me decide, okay, what do I do next in a track? My other theories or approaches to music making are a bit similar here, just like I make a beeline to the thing in the track that makes people want to listen to the track. Don't start by faffing around with drums or some nice art. No. Go straight to trying to make that little bar that's the peak of the whole tune. And then work backwards, because otherwise you are just wasting time. And I'll spend like 20 minutes and I'll be like, okay, let's make that one loop that's the peak of the tune. And if I make it and it's not good enough, I've only wasted 20 minutes. Start again, next one. So that's another thing I like to do when it comes to making music. I guess something related to like big rooms is like, you have to imagine these speakers, right? Each one of these drivers is like a band. You know, you have in a band you have a drummer, a guitarist, a bassist, and they're all like responsible for different parts of a song musically. When you are playing through sound systems, your band members are like very focused on particular frequencies. So, you know, you have, here is an example of the latest Function 1 tops that you might find in some clubs. And you can see here they have 3 drivers. So they've got like a top driver, a mid, and then something for like the lower frequencies. And here I have mapped out the sub frequency here all the way to the top, and you can see this is like the top driver, the middle driver, the low driver, and what they make, and then the boxes that they'll have. And here we've got a sub right there, and what responsibilities that will have. And so when you're thinking about the mix down, you're thinking about the tracks, you're thinking about what is this driver going to be playing, you know, and trying to make sure that you have the clearest possible, the simplest instructions you can give it the better it's going to sound in the club. So all my sub basses, for example, are not derived from a bass that has like lots of upper harmonics in it. You know, when you have a bass that sounds thick and it has all these top end, I'll never do that. I'll send a sine wave directly to this box in all of my tracks, so that the subs, especially when we come to like line arrays between 20 to 50 hertz, they just have this one box that does that frequency. That box in my tracks is only getting one note, one sine wave, and nothing else. So it means that when my tracks are played out on big rooms with these huge sound systems, it sounds really clear. At the low end, it's just, there's no mess happening. It's very direct. Yeah. Any other questions?
Can you tell more about sub bass? How to sub bass?
Sub bass.
How you do it, and just tips, you know.
You know what? I'll show you very quickly. I have a preset here, all lined up, ready to go. It's called sub, and then here you go. This is my sub. This is what I mean by sending like the simplest possible signal to a speaker. Don't know how loud that goes. So this is how I make my subs, and if we go to here, we go high res, you'll be able to see it a bit better as well. So when you saw that other chart and you saw the speaker, that is the only thing that speaker has to play in my music. And it means that it just always gets a very clear signal. And I make it using Diva. So this is quite a nice bass synth. And it already sounds very clean. But just to make sure, I put an EQ on it to filter out any top end whatsoever. And then this limiter here, you'll see so heavily limited. This is the output. If you look at the input versus the output, and you see how when you change notes, the volume changes. But with the limiter really, really hard, you see you get a very consistent output no matter what. It's always going to be the same volume. Now it doesn't sound like the same volume in here, but that's everything to do with speaker drivers and the room and tones like that. So that's stuff you can't control. But I can control this. Okay.
What frequency do you cut the low end normally?
I go quite low. So Pascal was saying something like D sharp is like maybe the lowest note that he wants to go. This makes sense because if you look at the frequency of like some subs,
D sharp is 39 hertz.
39 hertz. So 39 hertz is like easily covered by most sound systems. I don't care. I will go as low as like A or C, which can be like 23, 24 hertz, because I'm only interested in these tracks playing on like those massive systems. And the physical experience of hearing 24 hertz on a system that can produce it is like, it's worth it for it to not sound good on lesser systems. And I'm extremely privileged that my music is played by people who are playing on very good sound systems. So I prioritize that over anything else. Yeah, any other questions? I guess if we want to talk a little bit more about, I don't know, do we want to start the club night or do you want to, what do you reckon?
I would be interested also in information on compression and stuff, but I think we don't have the time, unfortunately.
Okay. All good. So I guess a couple of things about sound is you have two types of sounding clubs. You have point source, which is typically a function 1 rig, or like this, you describe as a point source. And then you have line arrays, which they look like this, these big stacks that you'll see mainly at festivals or certain big clubs. They'll have this. And they work on very different principles. So point source is like really great for natural sound, transient sound. Kind of what you put in is exactly what you're going to get out. And it makes it really good for band music actually, despite them being put in a lot of clubs. They have a very customizable solution, so like if you're an engineer and you're putting in a point source system, you have lots of control over how you want it to sound. You get to choose your own amps, you get to choose your own crossovers, you get to choose exactly the arrangement that you want. With the line array, everything is very proprietary in the sense that like you have to use their solution, their amps, their software, everything for getting sound out into a club. But they have different advantages and disadvantages. So this is an experiment you can actually do tonight. So we have a point source here, right? When the DJs are playing over there, I want you to like walk around the room and look at the speakers. And you'll notice that with a point source, you get this interesting effect where whichever speaker you are marginally closer to than another speaker, it will sound like all of the sound is coming from that one that you are closest to. And it's because it has very strong directivity. Whereas with a line array, you have this incredible effect where, say like you're at a big festival, you have a line array here, a line array there. If you are outside of the left-right, say like you're too far to the left, right? The moment you line up with one side of the stereo array, it will sound like you get the full stereo. You get full left and right. It's really a fantastic effect. And the other thing about line arrays is that they're designed and they're shaped like this, in this curve, so that if you're right at the front and that bottom one right here is the one firing at you, or if you're right at the back and this top one is aiming at you, the volume is the same. They're really incredible things. And I think with very modern music, that has lots of chords on the side, especially music from South Africa, for example, which is extremely musical, has lots of musical layers, chords on top of each other, vocals, and they really put them to the side. The stereo information that you get from a line array is stunning. You get to hear all the chords that sit on the sides, you get to hear all the bass lines that like rumble in the left-right channels. In a more normal function 1 stack, they might get rid of all the stereo information as high as 200 Hertz. And I've been to Basel, Nordsten, and asked the guy there who does the point source system, and he says they high passes all the way up to 250 Hertz. So it means if you have any chords that sit really nice, really low, but in the sides, they'll just totally disappear. It's much more. I think function 1 and these dance stacks are much more orientated towards techno and like very driving drum focused music. And ever since the line array has come in, you can make dance music that I feel like is a little more musical and it will really translate well to your audience. Yeah, they do nuts shit like climate adjustment in a thing. If you're the humidity and temperature of a room affects the sound. And L-Acoustics came up with a technology where they can measure the humidity and temperature of your room as people fill it and adjust the sound to compensate, which is crazy. So yeah.
Sorry, I have a question. May I?
Of course.
Yeah. Have you been to Berghain in Berlin?
Yes, I played at Panorama Bar twice.
What kind of do they have?
That's point source.
Okay, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been very lucky to play Panorama Bar twice, and I always thought the sound in there was not very good.
Okay.
It's like
It's all about the marketing and networking.
Yeah. The system at RSO, I don't know if you've been, that's also point source.
Yeah. What about Fabric?
Fabric is point source as well.
That is a very good sound system.
So the advantage of point source is low ceilings. If you have like a room, you can be like, oh, I can put a fill there. I can put speakers right there to fill that area of the dance floor. I can put speakers there to fill that area of the dance floor. You can be really precise with it. There's a new club that just opened up in London called Peckham Palace. It's in South London. That has a very low ceiling, and they've done an incredible job with Function 1 point source speakers, just so that anywhere you sound on the dance floor, you get really good coverage. And it reminds me of Greta Ferrella, like how punchy the sub is in there. So if you ever come to London, try and go to a night at Peckham Palace. So it's a really good club. Yeah. Anything else? Any other questions? We're all good? Wonderful. Well, thank you so much to everyone here. Thanks for FLUCC, thank you to CONNÄKT, Monkeytown and Eva. Thanks to Pasco and the SAE Institute. You've been really, really lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Raise it, lose it.